Is a recession upon us? Are times about to get pretty tough? Let's talk about it.
The economy does not look great right now. Things are slowing down. You're seeing layoffs in many sectors of the economy. People are slowing down. The probabilities say if we're not in a recession right now, we're likely to be in one very soon. So my advice to people, whether they're small business owners or, is take some risk off the table. If you were going to make a purchase, maybe slow down that purchase a little bit. Keep some dry powder on hand, and wait a bit and see how. Try to reduce some risk in your business or your life.
For those of you that don't know, that man right there is the founder of Amazon, one of the largest companies in the world. And he's basically saying that, we could maybe see a recession coming up pretty soon. And if we do, how to kind of prepare for one. Now, Jeff Bezos has been selling an ungodly amount of Amazon stock. Now, is he doing that to fund his lifestyle and his billionaire yacht he recently bought? Or is he doing it because he thinks a recession is upon us? I don't know, but whenever I see a billionaire selling millions of dollars worth of stock that he founded, it's kind of hard not to think, does he think something's coming? But with that, no one can tell the future. I'm not sitting here saying that a recession is 100% going to happen, but even though actually at some point in time there's going to be a major pullback. I will say that. But I don't know when, I don't know how, and I don't know exactly what's going to happen. But I feel like we're freaking due.
33% of all Americans are holding a second job right now to pay their bills. And that is the highest level since World War II ended. The U.S. is in a recession, firmly 2 years of recession, but we don't feel it because we're told that's not happening. When I was growing up, recession was 2/4 of a shrinking GDP. Now they added jobs to that to balance it out. But if you added credit card debt, the highest amount of credit card debt in the history of plastic, at the highest rates in the history of interest rates. Why? If we're doing so well, is the average American family banging a plastic card? We have used car dealers around the country. Their inventories are exploding. This is a real indicator of okay, we got problems now. Rents are flat or decreasing. Mortgage applications are at the lowest level of 15 years. Every day people are being screwed right now.
I actually just made a tweet the other day over on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it now. And I said something very similar to that. I said, millions of people are trying to keep their current lifestyle they have been used to over the past few years by piling up debt on credit cards. This is a recipe for disaster. Yes, prices are increasing and times are getting harder. You have to roll with the punches and adjust accordingly. If unemployment suddenly has a major spike, a lot of people will be in trouble. Plan now for when times get even harder. Now, what I mean by that is a lot of people are using their credit cards to live the lifestyles they've been used to over the past few years. You look at this chart I attached to this tweet. Total outstanding credit card balances from 1999 to present. Look where we're at right now. Now, there was a little bit of a pullback in Q1 of 24 for this year, but look at that spike on credit card debt. Insane. Look at the last few times we've had spikes in credit card debt. Right before COVID, and we had a major dip, and then the last one was the financial crisis of 2008. So if you guys are watching this and you're using your credit cards to live a lifestyle and you're continuously racking up debt, all you're doing to yourself is you're going to make your life that much more miserable and hard to get through once a recession does hit us. Because if you happen to lose your job and you can't go find another job, because I don't know if a lot of people remember, during times of toughness and recessions and, dare I say it, Great Depressions, it's not like you can just go job hop and go find another job within the next couple weeks to make sure that paycheck's coming back in so you can continue to pay your debt payments. When times are tough and you lose your job, that's it. You got to figure out a way to get by. And if you have no money coming in, like most Americans can't survive a $1,000 expense if they don't have a paycheck coming in within a week's notice. Meaning if they have an emergency pop up and they don't have a paycheck coming in, they can't afford it. They don't have the money in their accounts. They're living off credit cards. Guys, it's not a way to live. That's not how you should be doing it. And that last sentence is so important in that tweet. I said, if unemployment suddenly has a major spike, meaning if you lose your job, a lot of people will be in trouble. Plan now for when times get even harder. Pay off your debts, increase your savings, decrease your lifestyle. A lot of things need to be changed in a lot of people's lifestyles to help get them prepared for a most likely upcoming recession in 1 year or 10 years. Who knows how long it's going to be until it happens.
No, here's what they're going to do. They're going to skip an iPhone cycle instead.
This is a great podcast, by the way. If you guys never heard of it, All In Podcasts, wonderful.
Going from 13 to 14 or 14 to 15, they're going to go 13 to 16, 14 to 17. They'll just skip, which I did for the first time. I don't need to skip it, but I was just like, this 13 is good enough. They're going to skip upgrading their car. You're going to keep your car for an extra 2 or 3 years. And if you were thinking about moving your house, you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to make this house work. We're going to put 2 of the kids in a room.
You're 100% right. I think that is it. I think that's very.
My kids shared a room for the past, since my daughter's been born. So the past 4 years, my kids have shared a room. They don't need the extra room. I mean, they're 7 and 4. You know how many kids lived in the same room 40 years ago? Like, they love it. Now they have their own rooms because we upgraded homes a little bit, but there's a lot of things people could do to change to increase their financial stability.
I think that's very well said. And the other side of it is that some of these industries where you have these large ticket purchases that drive consumer consumption, their backs are against the wall. Look at the automakers. The deals that the unions have proposed to the automakers will cause them from. I saw an analysis of Ford, where Ford would go, if you just did a pro forma and went back the last couple of years, they would have gone from 30 billion of profits to minus 17 billion of losses. So,
yikes. Basically what he's saying there is a lot of consumers are still increasing their spending habits, but when this recession hits, there is a lot of the fancy items that everyday consumers are still purchasing, even though we've seen a drawback here recently. That's going to be a major catastrophic event to our economy when everyone starts pulling back, because most likely due to unemployment going up or whatever tends to be the issue. There may be a couple different things that happen that cause a recession. Like I said, I can't tell the future. There's a lot of unnecessary spending right now that the consumer is doing, that when that stops, when that money stops trickling into these businesses, there's going to be some major consequences.
Do you think the U.S. economy right now is in a recession?
No, I don't. The unemployment rate is at an all-time low in 50 years. I know that the cost of living is high. It's high everywhere. It's expensive to live, but it's not as expensive as it was for my parents when they had a house at 20% for a mortgage. Like, that's what it was.
Oh my gosh. Well, let's hang on. Let's read this real quick. The cost of homes in the United States has fluctuated over time, but between 1980 and 2020, the nominal price of a square foot of housing increased by 268%. However, when adjusted for inflation, a dollar bought about twice as much real estate in 1985 than it does today. For example, $500,000 in 1985 has the purchasing power of 1.43 million today, which would be enough to buy just over 3 houses in 2023. I don't give a shit if your mortgage interest rate was 20% back in the 1960s. Give me a 20% interest rate all day if I can go buy a $60,000 home. Cost of wages has not kept up with the cost of living and the prices of homes and other assets. There's no way. So just because, I think a lot of people get that confused, like this woman, just because mortgage rates were at 17, 18, 19% in the 70s, that doesn't mean everything was more expensive back then. Like if we took our dollars now and used them in 1970, we would all be freaking millionaires. It doesn't work like that. Like the amount of wages has not increased and kept up with the cost of living. So everyone who bought those homes back then and were paying a high interest rate, but had no idea what cost of real estate was going to look like 40 years, 50 years later. I mean, these boomers are sitting on a freaking gold mine in real estate. They are a gold mine. So I'm sorry, lady, but totally disagree. Now, we may not be in a recession yet. I don't know. But no way was it more expensive to live back then than it was today. No way.
I know why the economy hasn't tanked. Everyone's talking about, oh, the CPI is up, oh, rates are up. How have we not hit a recession yet? Soft landing, Jerome Powell. No, it's not Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell is not the reason why the economy didn't tank. You want to know why? It's because everyone is buying themselves little treats. It's the little treat effect. Everyone, boomer and below. Boomers don't do it. They just spend their money on like houses so that we can't buy them. But everyone else, every day, because life is such a hellscape, is just buying themselves a little treat, a little coffee, a little bag of chips that cost too much, a juice that you know you shouldn't get, some recess that you're like, why am I paying $7 for a can with some CBD in it? It doesn't matter. It's a little treat to keep you going as you consider the fact that both the presidential candidates are like 82 years old. That's what it is. It's a little treat effect. And you know what? I'm okay with the little treat. That shit keeps me going. It's also keeping the economy going, so keep it up. I'm proud of you guys.
Little treat effect. I like that. That's so true. 100%. I mean, we go buy a avocado toast and a coffee, my wife and I, and it's freaking $30 for 2 coffees and 2 avocado toasts. I'm thinking $30 for a piece of toast with some squished up avocado? No, it's a little treat. A little treat for ourselves. We do it every now and then, not all the time. But that is a major issue today. So many of us, millennials and Gen Zers, we're spending so much money on these little treats, the little treat effect, and all of that money. But I get it. I get it, guys. These little treats are nice. They are. Don't get me wrong. I love me an iced Americano with an extra shot of espresso. Sometimes 2 if I'm feeling like I need it, which is mostly every day, but usually it's 1. The little treats are nice. They are. And it's also, think about how easy it is to get us these little treats. Hop on Amazon, like, oh, I really need to get this for my office. 5 seconds later, it's in your Amazon cart, boom, purchase it, done. It's also so easy. It's at our fingertips for us to be able to get these little treats. It's convenient. That's the problem, though. It's so much harder to say no to those purchases that we continue to make them, continue to buy these little treats, and it just keeps piling up and piling up and piling up. Now, like he said, it is keeping the economy going. That is what they say. The consumer is strong, but if you compare that to credit card, but if you compare that to credit card debt, it may be telling a different story. And people can only take on so much until a bubble pops. But when is it going to pop? When is the world going to wake up one morning and see Black Monday all over again, or Black Tuesday, whatever it was in the stock market? Something's going to happen. And the problem we're seeing, our government does nothing about it. Nothing. All they're doing is pushing the problem further ahead for future generations to deal with. Like, think about when millennials and Gen Zers are the age of boomers, and we're all up high in control in Congress. Think about how much debt we're going to have to deal with. Like, when does it stop? When does it stop that our country stops printing money to help prevent recessions like it did in 2008 and 2020 with COVID? Like, all they're doing is just pushing the problem farther down for more generations to handle, to deal with. Think about it.
Completely got screwed. I don't think our parents realize how difficult it is. Everything right now, definitely post-pandemic, it's crazy. Like, I'm working 45 hours here, but I still have to ask my parents for help living here by myself. So
it's tough. It is. It's tough. But if we compare that to like silent generation age, or maybe it's the generation before that went through the Great Depression, like, guys, like, I bring that up every now and then because it's so true. Like, our generations, we tend to complain a lot. The millennials and Gen Zers complain how expensive it is. And I get it. It's a shitty time to start a career and to start a life. It sucks. It really does. But I also think it's going to make our generation a little stronger, because you look at the generation that went through the Great Depression and that grew up as kids, they kind of just dealt with it. Like, they're like, oh, this is what it is. This is the hand I was dealt. I'm going to make the best of it. And I think we tend to not do that as a generation, the millennials and the Gen Zers, because we're so connected with everyone around the world and seeing what's going on that it's not the same. Right now, it's a matter of surviving, but we're also tending to live off debt a lot more. This is why you're seeing these fake lifestyles that everyone's living. Like everyone's having the nice cars in their garage and big fancy homes and buying the boats and everything, but how many people are using cash to buy all those purchases? I mean, I do. I don't buy that. I mean, I'm still driving a car from my wife's that she got in high school. But when I go make a big purchase, I don't borrow money for stuff like that. I don't. The only time I'm borrowing money is if it's for an investment, like a real estate asset. That's it. I think a lot of people are going to get a big awakening here pretty soon. And if you happen to watch this video, start changing now. Change it now before you look back and then you're like, crap, I wish I would have done that years ago and prepared for these tough times. Also, you build up a nice little nest egg while you're preparing for all this, which what I'm doing. I have a lot more cash on the side than I probably should, but I'm still investing. But if things do happen, I can take advantage of when prices drop. Like, because I'm preparing now. Like when no one can prepare to go out to eat, I'll have the cash to go buy properties for pennies on the dollar if that happens. Maybe it's not pennies, maybe it's the stock market. Who knows what's going to drop in value? But generally in a recession, stuff goes down. But it has to happen when other people can't afford it. Because like right now, if prices in real estate drop, there'd be still tons of people buying homes. So that's what I mean. Something major has to happen for a big change for prices in real estate and everything. And also, real estate's not set up the same way as it was in '08. So we may not see major drops in real estate. We may not. There may be something else that has a major catastrophe, but real estate may not be touched. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen?
They're saying rents will go down. And a lot of people are saying, well, during a recession, how are rents going to go down because people aren't going to buy? But what people aren't taking into account are the young people who are going back and living with mom and dad, the people who are getting roommates, which takes a renter off the market. I know last year I would list a rental property on the market and within 24 hours, I have like 24 applications and people like, bidding up the rent. Right now, I just listed a unit for rent and it did rent fast, but it wasn't like 20 applications and people fighting over the unit.
So you're seeing that change?
I'm seeing a little bit of a slowdown.
So what happened in 2008?
Slowdown's happening. Will it continue to slow down or will it pop right back up because of all the money that's been printed in?
So what happened in 2008, they stopped it by printing money. So they call it the Great Recession. But they didn't really fix anything.
Right.
Derivatives went from 700 trillion to 1.2 trillion today. Twice as much. So when the recession hit, the PhD standard came in. That was Bernanke, They had Nobel Prize winners, people like my poor dad, academics, So the baby boomers are going to retire now. Student loans are bust because we're fighting a 12-year war now. Entitlements are going through the roof. National debt to GDP is 109 in America, 109%. 90% is too late. We have to keep printing now.
That's not good, y'all. What he says is so good. He stated that in 2008, the banks got a bailout, which I think was a horrible decision on our parts. Now people, they say, oh, well, we would have had a worse economic turmoil if, the government wouldn't have bailed out the banks for writing these shitty loans for everyone on mortgage properties. What I think happened and what I think is a bunch of bullshit is in 2008, instead of bailing out all of the American people who lost jobs, some people committed, horrible acts, that I don't recommend, but there's been so many major horrible stories that have come out in '08 and people's lives were ruined financially because of this that happened. But the government deems to say, hey, we're going to bail out the banks because if the banks fail, then all else, then there could have been major, more catastrophic events that happened on top of that. But again, it's easy for me to say this now as looking back in time. But all they did was they printed money to bail out the banks and to save the economy, which, in fact, what I mentioned earlier in the video is they just kind of kicked the stick farther down the road. Same thing happened in 2020, guys. COVID happened. Our whole world shut down. The economy, everyone's like, what, is this the end of the world? But same thing. 30% of the history of the American dollar that has been printed was printed in 2020 and 2021. It's like a 12-month span. 30%. Think about that. Think about the entire history of the American dollar and how much has been printed, how much money has been printed over that lifetime of the dollar. 30% of that was printed in 1 year. 30%. Kick the stick down the road even further. They're not fixing anything. Nothing's being fixed. Like, do we need to go through a Great Depression again for things to kind of get back on track? This can't go on that much longer, guys. And I think the best thing we can do as citizens, and this is for people everywhere in the world, is to plan accordingly. Borrow less, stack up on cash, and pay off your debts. Because when times get tough, you're going to wish you were set up better financially instead of buying all the little treats. That's all I got, guys. Peace.